Hello, my name is Lucy Donald. I'm an artist working in Wales. I'm going to be showing you how to make scratchboard art today, techniques of composition and mark making inspired by artist Colin C. Paynton, Gertrude Hermes and MC Escher. I hope you enjoy it. In this video tutorial I'm going to show you how to make scraperboard artworks like these. And what you need to buy is a pack of scraperboard sheets. There's 5 in this pack and they come with a little scraper tool like this one. Colin C. Paynton is one of my favourite artists living and working in Wales. He's a printmaker. These are wood engravings, and he reminds me a little bit of Caravaggio in a way. He's like the Caravaggio of the natural world, because in his prints rather, he creates these extremely dramatic compositions with unusual, unexpected viewpoints. But because he's a printmaker and a wood engraver, he works with black and white, and so all the tones are found by creating areas of pattern, so little dots and dashes, areas of white patterning that build up tone. And you can see this very dramatic viewpoint here of, we can see the surface of the water with the duck at the top there. And we can also see into the water, we can see the fish, and we can see the birds diving down at a very dynamic angle across the page. And then he's also got these curvy lines that create beautiful abstract patterns, but also that guide your eye to all the characters, the bird on the top of the water, the fish and the diving birds. Your eyes led to each of those characters and they're all connected by the abstract patterning. Another example of Colin C. Paynton's abstract patterning here. You can see birds flying, you can see birds sitting on the surface of the water. The water's described by those white patterns where the light's catching the patterning of the water on the top, the movement, the waves of movement from the birds. And then also the water is packed with fish. Really beautiful. And again, you've got these dramatic angles across the page that the fish almost act like lines pointing to the birds, and the curvy lines between the birds of the water surface connect the birds together. Really, really beautiful. This image is of a kingfisher diving. You can see there's very dramatic vertical lines down here that emphasise the movement down of the kingfisher into the water. We've got these kind of fractal-like patterns where the water's splashing around the bird, and then again we've got these really beautiful abstract patterns full of patterning that build up different tones, and then the fish very beautifully sort of curving, very sinuous, moving through the water. This is a woodcut by Gertrude Hermes, and what's so beautiful about this one, again we've got a figure cutting through the water, so the figure is half submerged in the water and half in the air. And what's really beautiful about this one is you can see, like I was talking about mark making and pattern making, you can see how the light areas look like the figure is out of the water, and the patterned tonal areas are kind of more about the movement through the water, the waves of movement and the light sort of hitting the surface of the water. Another piece by Gertrude Hermes is a really dramatic composition. So you can see you've got the fish, where our viewpoint is deep in the water with the fish below. You've got that squiggly line that's leading your eye up to the top surface of the water where we can see the sun, and then you can see those tiny, tiny figures swimming together at the top in the light. And what creates the drama in this picture is the viewpoint, the fact that we're looking up, and because of perspective you can see that the fish is massive compared to the two tiny figures in the distance at the top of the water. This piece is by MC Escher, so you can see the positive shape of the birds, which then gradually morph, become a pattern, and then the negative space turns into a white bird. So you've got the black bird that side and the white bird, and also you can see in the landscape you've got a light landscape here and then you've got a dark landscape here. So really clever bit of reversing out, I think you call it, where you have black on white and white on black. And that's quite a good thing to consider when you're designing your picture as well. So when you start designing your picture for the scraper boards, you may just start by doing some scribbles like me. These were my initial scribbles, sort of working out ideas. I was thinking about the swan idea, came to me quite early on, but I also had an idea of birds and the sun, and then I had some other doodles as well. I decided to work up the idea of the swan using a piece of paper that was pretty much the same size as the scraper board, and I drew out my design. And it's quite important, you might at this stage like the drawing and think it looks alright and then want to leap straight into the scraper board, but I strongly recommend that you work out where your areas of light, mid-tone and dark are going to be, because it really helps. If you've got a strong plan like this, it makes such a difference when you actually start scraping out the design. So as you can see, when I'm scraping, and I do recommend that you test out on a scrap piece of, you tend to get say 5 sheets of this stuff, so it's worth experimenting with the scraper pen just to see what sort of marks you make, what sort of control you can have. It's not that easy to do curved lines, so you know, you need to think about how you're positioning your hand and the board to get the best sort of curve, and you can practice that on one of your sheets just to try things out. So you can see, unlike a traditional drawing where you're drawing the dark areas onto a white piece of paper, this time you're overlapping your marks to build up the lightest areas. And if you can get mid-tones, very light areas by scratching out quite a lot, you can create quite soft, subtle tonal differences. I was inspired by the Colin C. Paynton pieces. Obviously mine aren't as good as his, but I was thinking about the shapes, the repeated shapes. And when you think about composition, if you want, I wanted to create quite a calm image, but I did want to have a lot of drama in the shapes of the feather of the bird. So I've exaggerated the back of the bird here so I can get detail of the feathers in, and then I've made the head slightly smaller than it should be, and then I've also got this repeating the shape of the ripples around the bird to emphasise that kind of shape. But mostly in this area up here it's kind of a mid-tone, a grey, and my lines are almost horizontal, so it has this sense of kind of calm and a rhythm, and there's a kind of softness to it. I also did another piece, and I had this idea that I wanted a diver diving into the water, looking at some seahorses, and like you can see I've tried doing the head in different ways here. And then I developed a slightly different composition because I liked the idea on the Colin C. Paynton images. I really enjoyed parts of the animals, and also Gertrude Hermes, where the figure's sticking out of the water. the two different environments. So my diver here, his feet are, or her feet, are sticking out of the water. I've got the surface where the birds are flying, so you can see it's a completely different environment. Then I've got the odd ripple of the surface of the water. And then I've got this underwater world that I was trying to create, which I've illuminated from the bottom, which wouldn't really happen in a photograph or in reality. But my final scraper board looked like this. So I relied quite a lot on just line, simple white lines on black. And then as I got deeper into the water, so to speak, I worked with more light and more detail. But I really quite like combining the birds who are flying in the air with the deep water. So I quite enjoyed doing that one as well. Another technique that you can use, you can actually colour these whiteboards, and it does say on the box when you choose which scraper boards you buy, it does say on here suitable for colouring. So you know that when you scrape away the black, you can actually fill in with colour if you want. So I did at one point consider perhaps filling in this orange of the beak so it really stood out, but I decided not to do that. I quite like the drama of the black and white on that one. With this scraper board, I think I've developed my own technique here, and what I did was I scraped away some of the lines, filled them with ink, and then scraped away more. Once that had dried, I scraped away more of the black to reveal this white, and it's got quite a nice kind of texture and unusual. It almost looks like an etching plate or something, because the fine lines do actually hold the ink quite well. So that's another thing to consider. So you could do two kind of phases of scratching away, filling with colour, and then scratching away to reveal more of the white areas.